Greetings. We are the Pleiadians speaking to you from our starship. It is difficult to explain time on our starships, because time is something that is part of living on a turning planet that stays in the same orbit. However, once you are on a moving starship, time is something that we create on the ship to make it easier for each person to have their work shift, join the meeting, and share their daily life. Here, on our starship home, everything is very different from your homes on Earth. For one thing, everyone here is loving and kind. Within this society, there is none of the bickering, jealousy, and/or other third-dimensional behaviors that we had witnessed from the viewpoint on our ship. Also, there is also very little disease here on the ship. Disease, as well as injuries, are instantly repaired with our fifth-dimensional technology. However, when you visit us on our ship, as we call it, you will first be taken to one of the many healing rooms that are on all of our ships. When you relax in our healing rooms, your consciousness will expand into the fifth dimension. Then you will experience the wonderful manner in which fifth-dimensional healing occurs. Once on the ship, you will remember your Pleiadian self and the services you give. Service is a term that we use rather than of work, as work is a third and fourth-dimensional term that we do not use on the ship. Instead of work, we use the term service, as being of service is one of our greatest contributions to humanity that we greatly love sharing. In fact, it is quite interesting that we Pleiadians have no word for what you would call work. Instead, we experience that we are giving service to our friends and family who are on an away mission to Earth. When we do visit Earth, which we do quite often, we send out our healing energies whenever we see that you are ready to accept this interdimensional healing. We also assist with human birthing, as we can look at the inside of the womb of a pregnant woman and make a connection with the unborn child. We put the term unborn child, because we can perceive that a birth is imminent, and send unconditional love to the one who will soon be released out into the challenging life on third-dimensional Earth. Life on Earth was not always as challenging as it is in your now, but the darkest night is just before dawn. In other words, before those who have chosen to take a third-dimensional Earth vessel can fully awaken to the reason for their mission to Earth, they must go into the lower frequencies of the human form to transmute any darkness into light. By darkness, we mean the effluvia that surround all that is third-dimensional, which appears to be very dark from our fifth-dimensional perspective. Then, before our volunteer to assist Gaia is born into a third-dimensional Earth form, we send unconditional love into the consciousness of the one who is to be born to Earth. We also send a great deal of violet fire to surround the one who is to take a third-dimensional Earth vessel, to transmute as much inner darkness and fear that the birthing one has decided to carry in their human Earth vessel. Transmutation means to send as much unconditional love into the soon-to-be-born one as they can contain. The amount of unconditional love and violet fire that a volunteer to take an Earth vessel retains, is determined by that volunteer. If the volunteer has studied in one of our many Pleiadian light temples, they will be able to embody more power of transmutation than those of us who have not completed our interdimensional training. This interdimensional training is chosen by the one who is ready to accept a tour of duty as a grounded human. The more advanced Pleiadians can take on a more difficult incarnation, as they have learned how to stay connected with their true fifth-dimensional expression. However, sometimes our volunteers to Earth underestimate how difficult life can be on a third-dimensional planet. Then they can become lost, ill, or even turn to the dark side. However, if they can remember their interdimensional connection to their true fifth-dimensional self, they will be much more prepared to face the challenges of assisting Gaia to ascend during the now of Gaia's great challenge. Gaia is experiencing the very great challenge of transmuting her third and fourth dimensional planetary body back into her innate fifth dimensional planetary self. Dear Gaia has had to face many forms of planetary upheaval and destruction within this now, in order to release the darkness from her planetary form. Releasing the darkness is just the first step of transmutation, as the lower frequencies of darkness that have taken hold on Gaia must be unconditionally loved, even though that darkness has caused her much pain. We, the members of your Pleiadian family, tell you this now because the release of darkness has been quite extensive on Gaia's planet within your now. Many of the members of humanity have not been able to understand that. They volunteered to enter an Earth vessel so that they could best assist Gaia. The reason why wearing an Earth vessel assists Gaia so greatly is because you, our brave volunteers to assist Gaia, have taken a human vessel with the same frequency of the elemental structures of Earth, known as Earth, Air, Fire, and Water. When you take on the same frequency as Gaia's elementals of Earth, Air, Fire, and Water, when you heal, transmute, expand and embed your elementals with unconditional love, you, the members of humanity who have taken this challenge, will transmute your own inner elementals of Earth, Air, Fire, and Water. Then, when you walk through Gaia's reality, whether your third-dimensional vessel is aware or not, your own higher dimensional elementals of Earth, Air, Fire, and Water, will automatically send unconditional love to heal the wounded elementals that you have consciously, or unconsciously, blessed. In fact, it is often safer for the grounded humans to not know of their blessings, as the burden of that responsibility can seem too much for a third-dimensional human. On the other hand, if that human has a conscious, or even unconscious, a partnership with Gaia's planetary self, the huge being known as Planet Earth can protect and heal you, while you, consciously or unconsciously, protect and heal Gaia's Earth body. The advantage of being unconscious of your service to Gaia is that you do not know that there are those who wish to work against Gaia's ascension, as well as against your assistance to ascending Gaia. The disadvantage of being unconscious is that you will not be as aware of how loving, beautiful, and committed Gaia is to each and every one of her planetary beings, Earthlings included. Of course, all the awake human Earthlings are aware of what is going on right before their eyes, even though they cannot see it. On the other hand, fully awake humans are able to experience the shift in energy fields. We, your galactic family, have decided to limit humanity's perceptions of an experience for their own protection. If a human is not aware of their great contribution, they are less likely to fall into the third-dimensional trap of conceit, or fall into the trap of forgetting that your power only comes through you and not from you. If one is not very aware of that fact, they fall into the trap of having power over, as opposed to power within. It is also a safety measure for humanity to think in terms of helping others, rather than helping your own self. The best way to safeguard against this danger is to stay in connection with your inner guidance that is flowing into you from your fifth-dimensional, and beyond, multidimensional self. Your multidimensional self is able to be simultaneously aware of your third, fourth, and fifth dimensionality within the same moment of the now. Your multidimensional self is the whole of the components of all the aspects of your true, interdimensional self. Your interdimensional self is the component of your multidimensional self, whose contribution is to keep the lines of communication open between the many different frequencies of your multidimensional self. Your multidimensional self is the totality of the many frequencies to which you are innately connected. However, this connection is often unconscious to your physical body for two main reasons. The first reason is that it is very difficult to know your entire being and to not forget your mission, your reason for incarnation. We, the members of your galactic family, have sadly observed how many of our volunteers take a third-dimensional Earth body, and get lost in the polarities of good, bad, here, there, 3D self, 5D self. When we say polarities in this context, we mean the illusions that something is good or better, and or remembering self or forgetting self. In fact, the greatest challenge that our volunteers to Earth have to face is that they must be born as an infant, go through all the human stages and decades of maturation into adulthood, without forgetting who they really are, and why they chose to take an Earth vessel. It is much like going to an amusement park where there are so many things to experience, that you lose track of time, until you become so tired that you just want to go home. Also, this amusement park is not always fun. You may get frightened by one of the rides or experiences, eat too much junk food, have your wallet stolen and lose your money. In fact, the loss of your wallet is not as much about just losing the thing known as money, but more about the loss of your own identity. In fact, the loss of their true identity, as a multidimensional being, is the greatest challenge for our volunteers to assist Earth. The biggest problem is that in order to deeply experience Earth, our volunteers must be born into an infant body. This body takes a very long time to mature into adulthood, and there are many potholes along the road to adulthood, in which our dear volunteers to Earth can become trapped. It is for this reason that we ask all of our awakened and aware of their fifth-dimensional volunteers to Earth, to talk to others about their experience and to share their knowledge. If they share their knowledge, they will ground what they know into the third-dimensional versions of reality, which will create a deeper connection between the third, fourth, and fifth-dimensional reality of Earth. We thank you all for attending to our message and ask that you pass our message along to others whom you believe will be able to understand and effectively use this information to assist Gaia with her planetary ascension. Please remember that the darkest night is just before dawn. We say this to you, as the darkness appears to have a deep hold on Gaia's body. However, like you, the ones who have awakened to your true multidimensional power within, share what you have learned and or remembered, you will serve to awaken more and more of your fellow volunteers to assist with Gaia's return to her true multidimensional planetary body. All of you who can receive, understand, and accept our message is on your path to ascension. As you walk this path, you will meet many others who are walking this path with you. Also, as you share your experiences with others, you allow them to find the inner courage to remember the many multidimensional experiences they have had, but they had forgotten. Remember that time is an illusion of the third and fourth dimensional reality that you perceive through your third dimensional perceptions. Your memory is still alive within your own thoughts and emotions. If you can believe that fact, it will allow you to believe in your own multidimensional self. Whether you are aware of it or not, many of you, our volunteers to take an Earth vessel, return to our ships, usually that would be your ship, during your sleep. Also, many of you who visit us take advantage of the advanced, fifth-dimensional healing technology that you are welcome to partake of. On the ship, there are many machines that allow us to see inside of the patient. Then we can use special energy fields to repair the inside of the patient's wounded, or diseased body. One of the things that most earthbound humans do not realize, is that they do visit our ships. However, most humans choose to forget their experience, as it makes their life on Earth too difficult. The juxtaposition of having a higher dimensional reality based on light and unconditional love, and also having a third-dimensional physical reality, which has many challenges, can make many people forget about their fifth-dimensional life. It is for that reason that we call our friends and family who have taken an Earth vessel to assist Gaia to remind them, of your fifth-dimensional frequency of self. Yes, you are all multidimensional beings, in that you all enjoy many different realities within the now of the fifth-dimensional one. We say you experience this reality in the fifth-dimensional now of the one to remind you that you are not limited to your third-dimensional consciousness. However, on the other hand, you are limited to your third-dimensional physical body, as that is the third and fourth human form that you must wear while you are visiting your third and fourth dimensional planetary home of Earth. When you first visit our Pleiadian ship, you will feel very comforted by the constant unconditional love and many forms of interdimensional communication. Since we, the Pleiadians, are your hosts during your visit, we focus first on why you have come to visit us, and how we can be of assistance to you. There is much technology here that is very advanced beyond the technology on Earth. You may ask us why we do not share our technology with Earth, but if you look at the great misuse of your 3D technology, you will understand why too many humans are not ready to receive it. The galactics, as we often call ourselves, have come from many other star systems. If you feel that you are alone, just look up into the sparkling lights of stars, star systems, and celestial bodies. Then, you will be able to perceive the potential reality that you will return to, once you have completed your tour of duty to take an Earth vessel in order to assist Gaia. While living on Earth, you will not only learn more about being a human on transmuting Earth, but you will also begin to perceive outer space, not as something that is far, far away, but as a reality, a place that feels very comfortable and even familiar. In some deep inner space, you remember that some of those stars that you perceive in outer space are something that surrounds and protects you, like the sky around Earth. What if you never really thought about the blinking lights in the night sky? What if you never imagined that each blinking light was an entire world, that may, or may not, have humans living on them? Please try to imagine that this earthbound reality is what you chose when you went to the 4-day mall in your night body to observe your life from a different perspective. In other words, what we are saying is that life is a perspective which everyone sees through their own eyes. Your experience of reality is what you chose when you went to 4D mall to see your life from a different perspective. Life on third-dimensional Earth gives you the perspective of reality, in which many humans see only through their eyes and not through their mind and their heart. When you first go to your starship and meet the members of your galactic family, you will likely not be able to bring that perspective back into your third-dimensional physical life. However, sometimes you return to your third-dimensional reality via your fourth-dimensional astral body, or via a moment of the fifth-dimensional now in which you are able to remember something. You may not know what that something is, but the memory of the feeling that you had when you entered your starship and was welcomed by your friends and comrades on the ship, will likely remain as a special feeling. This feeling will remain within your thoughts and mind for a while, but your daily life on the third dimension will eventually dim those thoughts and memories. However, every now and then, something will enter your memory, if only for a second. You may not be able to connect with the finer details of that memory, but you will feel the feeling of coming home to some place and meeting with your family there that you did not know you had. You will likely not use the above terms of starship and home, but that is how your galactic self will remember them. Hence, you are left with the responsibility, probability, or honor, of being able to remember, maybe just a glimpse of your home on your starship, and/or a brief moment on your fifth-dimensional reality. Eventually, if you can believe in yourself, you will realize that when you are asleep to your third-dimensional reality, you will have the opportunity to visit your fifth-dimensional reality on your home ship. Often, but not always, your sleeping self's perspective of your galactic home will be able to remind you of your best friends from your home world or starship. Also, your galactic friends on the ship will be reminding you again and again that you are a multidimensional being who has many bodies. Because of this reminder, sometimes you will be able to perceive one, or some, of those blinking lights in the night sky, as your home. While you are very new to your galactic reality, you may not be able to share your experience with others. After all, they may think you are crazy. We remind you that that is their fear and their judgment, not yours. We advise all of you to write a diary of some sort, in any manner that you please, as it is your higher dimensional reality and your awakening. Initially, you may write about your experiences in a diary in order to better understand your experience, and how this experience affects your life. But then, likely when you least expect it, something will happen that will allow you to release some of your doubt in your own multidimensional self, that you had to hide from others, because you feared that they would judge you if they knew how very weird you are. However, as you communicate more and more with your star family, you will not be so concerned about what others say. Also, you will have learned to look at that person's aura to see if that person is ready for your information. Then respect what you have perceived. One of the biggest challenges for you, the volunteers to take a physical Earth vessel, is to remember who you really are. Then, the next challenge is to look into the aura of a person standing before you to see if they are open enough to receive any of your interdimensional information. If that person is not ready to receive that higher frequency information, you will see that in their unawakened aura, that person, or even your own self, may have no idea that your higher frequency expression of self resides on Gaia within this now. If your higher self is wearing a fifth-dimensional body, only those who have opened their own heart and mind to the frequency of the fifth dimension will be able to perceive your own fifth-dimensional self. In fact, those of you who have not yet awakened to your fifth-dimensional self, will still believe that you are just imagining this being of light. Therefore, you will call your experience a dream. However, when you are ready, you will be able to communicate with your Pleiadian starship and/or home world, which is within the star cluster called the Pleiades. Many have never thought about starships till now, or distant planets, or nearby starships. However, once you find the inner courage, and latent memory of your true self, you may even be able to visit your future, and/or present homeworld reality. You will also be able then to visit your fifth-dimensional starship. In fact, when you remember how to relax into your natural resonance of being a fifth-dimensional being, you may be very excited that you are now in a reality that resides beyond what your Earth self calls time. You may not know, yet, how far in your future it will be before you can have these experiences. On the other hand, you may be surprised to realize that you have had these kinds of experiences your entire life, in fact, for many lives, but you forgot. However, if you listen, look, ask questions, and most challenging of all, allow your fifth-dimensional thinking, which you may have called in the past, just my imagination. What if your imagination is real, and your daily, 3D life is just your imagination? Take that thought into your dreams tonight, and take that thought to the ship when you visit it in your night body. What if you could finally come to the realization that you are a very privileged person, as you have been able to have 2 lives in one lifetime? You may ask, how can it be that I can have 2 lives in one lifetime? The answer is, because you will have returned to your true multidimensional self. Blessings on your journey. Your galactic family, the Pleiadians.